Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB pro bodybuilder. Today's guest is Zach Merkel. Zach, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Quentin, great to be on. Thanks for having me.
For sure, Zach. So super excited to have you on, man. Like I told you before I hit record, you're a highly requested guest. So I know everybody that follows along Behind the Muscle podcast is going to really enjoy having you on and hearing your story. So the first question, Zach, that I have for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
It's a tough question. And some of these might be a little cliche, but I mean, what is bodybuilding without Arnold Schwarzenegger? You know, that's what got me into the sport was when YouTube was in its infancy, you know, watching Arnold's training videos and pumping iron. And, you know, there's no better motivation than that. But aside from Arnold, I would say Dorian Yates, because, you know, his work ethic and dedication to the sport is just unparalleled. And he backed up all of his claims, and he was just a machine. So Dorian Yates, and I would say Jay Cutler for his just all around ambassadorship of bodybuilding and what he embodied in the sport. Obviously his work ethic and his dedication as well, but his business sense and what he was able to do by leveraging his career. I have other favorites, of course. I mean, I'm a huge fan of bodybuilding. You know, that's why I'm a bodybuilder myself. I love Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, you know, all the 90s guys, and even some of the guys today, you know, inspire me. And, you know, I when I did the Chicago Pro this past year, I was able to share the stage with Rolly Winkler, and I was a huge Rolly fan, and I was kind of starstruck, you know, just to share the stage with him was an incredible experience. So really, you know, every bodybuilder has something unique to bring to the table, and I have the utmost respect for a lot of those guys. So hopefully that answers it.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm excited to talk about your Chicago Pro debut here a little bit later in our conversation. And because it's always kind of cool to ask guys that, you know, when we discuss the pro debut, especially some of the younger guys like yourself, where it's like, man, like you watch these guys training videos, you watch them on YouTube, and then literally you're standing next to him on a stage. So we'll pick that up a little bit later, because I always love hearing that. So tell us, Zach, at what age did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
So I picked up my first weight more or less when I was 12 or so. Now, that's actually, you know, a great question. You know, you ask why, you know, I picked up weights so young, and my dad was he was an amateur bodybuilder in college, and I saw pictures of him, and you know, I was like, wow, that's really cool. I'd you know, love to build a physique and do the whole bodybuilding thing, or at least try to. So he got me my first weight set, and I would just lift at home in my basement, and it just became an addiction. And I was always excited to, you know, we lifted weights in PE class in high school, and everyone else was like dragging, like, oh man, we got to lift today. And I'm like, I'm psyched. I'm like, yeah, we get to lift today, you know? And yeah. And then the rest is history. It was just a snowball effect from there. So I started training pretty young, you know, and then obviously later in life, the diet came into play. But for those first couple of years, I was just having fun lifting weights. I loved getting a pump. I loved the way it made me feel. So, and here we are decades later now. It's crazy how time flies. But yeah, I was about 12 years old when I started weightlifting.
Very cool. So tell me then, when you kind of started out lifting, was it like just at your house, and was it your dad instructing you, or did you go to the gym and your dad instructed you? How did you kind of learn how to lift weights? Was your dad that huge influence in those earlier years, Zach?
Yeah, when I was young, it was just him. You know, we would and he'd lift with me. He taught me how to do all the basics, all your presses, leg extensions, squats, arms, tricep push downs, all that good stuff. And that really gave me the foundation. And once the training wheels came off, then I would go to an actual gym or the high school gym, and I'd look up stuff on forums, I'd watch videos, and the rest is history. And then you pick up from, various sources. You weed out the stuff that you don't like, and you cling on to the things that you do, and then you build your own style of training from there.
Very cool. Awesome, man. So I want to kind of transition into a little bit of your backstory in terms of going a little bit deeper with that. So tell us, Zach, like, where did you grow up? Talk about your parents maybe a little bit, family dynamics. Were you involved in sports up to about high school? And then we'll transition from there. So just talk about that upbringing a little bit, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I don't mind at all. So I grew up until I was 5 years old. I was born and raised in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is in eastern PA. I don't know where you're from. I don't know if you're familiar with the Northeast and PA. Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Iowa. So
okay, you're from Iowa, so out there, Midwest. Yeah, so I grew up in Allentown, and then we moved to Newcastle, Pennsylvania, which is western PA, about an hour north of Pittsburgh, where I live now. And that's where I had lived up until last February, was Newcastle, kind of a little dinky town. No one knows much about it, not much going on. Not quite like a one street light town, but for all intents and purposes, you can view it as that. And that was part of what made me gravitate towards the weights. There were no distractions, nothing flashy going on. But my home life was pretty standard. Wonderful parents, very supportive, especially with my sports and later on bodybuilding. I played baseball and golf in high school. I was on the baseball and golf team. Ironically enough, people think bodybuilding is synonymous with, like, oh, you must have been on the football team or the wrestling team. And it's like, no, I played sports you wouldn't maybe quite expect. But now, after talking to all kinds of bodybuilders, you see that they're all over the map, and everyone has their unique way of finding their way into the sport. So yeah, family was very supportive, and they still are to this day. They haven't missed one of my shows. I couldn't ask for a better support system with my family and my girlfriend now and my friends, and everything has been great.
Very cool. I want to ask you, Zach, what's something that as you kind of reflect on your younger years, as an adult now, is there something that you feel like your mom and your dad specifically instilled in you, or something maybe that you observed in terms of maybe their work ethic, or something that you kind of observed in their lives that you have maybe held on to into adulthood?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, they taught me that you can have anything if you work hard enough for it. And I think that is standard, and not just bodybuilding, but anything in life it goes for. But really, it was the freedom to do whatever I wanted. They always said, Zach, pursue whatever it is you want in life, and we'll be behind you as long as it's a constructive thing and not destructive. And, you can make a living doing it and be happy. And that's all they ever cared about. And I don't think everyone can say that their parents and support system, or, whoever was around them, a lot of people feel pressure to do a certain thing or go a certain route. And I never felt any pressure like that. So it was kind of just nice to be able to be me, be myself, and do what I wanted to do and pursue the things that made me happy.
Excellent. No, that's beautiful, man. So, kind of along that same lines with your parents, did you have like a coach or another adult, somebody that when you were younger that maybe spoke into your life or was a great example for you, or was it mostly your parents' influence?
It was various people. If you go through that timeline, I think when you're passionate about something and you exude a certain energy, people that are also passionate about said thing or whatever it is that they do in life gravitate towards you, you gravitate towards them. So I had a lot of people around me in the gym that got behind me and helped teach and instruct me and motivate me and, just reassure and validate and help me build that confidence, that I wasn't wasting my time and I was moving towards something that could be potentially very good. So yeah, I had a lot of gym buddies, lifting partners, if you want to call it coaches per se. And now I've been with my bodybuilding coach for it's been 2014 to now. What's that? 8 years now. And a lot of people, bodybuilders bounce around from coach to coach and they don't let their coach learn their body. But I've been lucky enough to be with the same coach who I'm also very good friends with for a long time now. And we just click and we seem to mesh pretty well,
For sure. Coach Morgan, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we're gonna get to him, Zach, because he's the reason why you and I are having this conversation today. So we gotta chat about him a little bit. But before we do,
for sure.
Once you're in high school, right? And all of us, maybe some of us when we're in high school, we have a pretty clear path of what we're gonna do once we graduate. Some of us don't, right? But for you, once you were kind of getting ready to go into your senior year of high school and graduate and wrap up that part of your life, what were you thinking about in terms of what you wanted to do career-wise? And then once you graduated, how did that kind of unfold? Did you go to college? Did you start working? Did you just fully immerse yourself into bodybuilding? Did you do a little bit of both? What did post-high school look like for you, Zach?
So my senior year going into college, I had been accepted to Penn State University, the main campus, and I was very proud of that. And I was ready to go to Penn State and become an engineer. And I began to pursue that. I did my first year of college at Penn State, all the while still maintaining my bodybuilding, or at the time, my version of bodybuilding, because I was still a little juvenile in the sense that I would, not eat all my meals. My nutrition wasn't great. My training was still kind of a standard gym bro training style, but I was progressing. And then it turns out, Penn State was a little expensive. So I transferred the next year back closer to home to a college called Youngstown State University, which is actually in Ohio, but it's right across the Western PA border. So I was still able to get in-state tuition and all that good stuff. And I was in school all the way through 2019 because I had gone part-time for some of that time. I was trying to work and juggle a job so I could have the money to support bodybuilding and still be in school. So I ended up graduating and getting my degree in civil engineering in 2019, which was actually the same year I turned pro at USA's, ironically enough. So I had two big milestones in the same year. But all the while, I really had this belief that, okay, I'm going to be a bodybuilder no matter what. And the longer I was in college, I kind of got burnout, and the classes were getting stale. And I was like, you know what? I don't hate this, but I don't love it either. But I'll get my degree because I've invested so much into it. It doesn't make sense to me to not finish it now. And I do a lot of people would call that a waste because I'm not using my degree right now, but I feel a lot better having it in my back pocket. And I just like to finish things I start. So that kind of led us into the present. So I was bodybuilding and going to school, and I finished that whole thing, and they kind of funneled into the same, that 2019 time frame was when I turned pro and I punched my ticket into what I consider real bodybuilding, and I got that degree. So
dude, that's awesome. I love that. Now I'm very curious, why engineering? Like once you were graduating high school, why was that initially something that you thought you wanted to pursue, or you wanted to pursue, and obviously you finished that out, but why in the beginning, Zach?
That's actually a really good question, because I don't even necessarily know the answer. I mean, I was always strong in like math and science, and it was just kind of that whole thing. They tell you play to your strengths, and whatever you're proficient in, go that route and make the most of it. So going into engineering school, I didn't even necessarily know what all was involved. I just, in hindsight, maybe I should have thought a little deeper about, okay, what is the end game? What am I actually going to be doing with this? But you know what? I don't regret anything. And all my choices led me to where I'm at now, and I'm happy with where I'm at now. So
for sure. Okay, so the moment everybody's been waiting for, we're going to start kind of transitioning into bodybuilding talk, right? So
yeah,
we already found out that you picked up the weights and started training on some level at 12 years old. Your dad was a bodybuilder. When did things kind of shift for you in terms of like, you know what? I love lifting weights. I've seen my dad's pictures. He was a bodybuilder. I think that's cool. It's something I want to do. But when did it really get serious for you, and you really like purpose in your heart, like, this is what I'm going to do with my life? I want to be a professional bodybuilder. When did that take place, Zach?
well, I don't know if I had an epiphany moment, but I did my first competition when I was 20. And up until I won USA's, I had done one show per year, just one show every year to kind of gauge my progress. And I won the overall at the first show I did. It wasn't even an NPC show. It was like a small college show, but it was sanctioned by the NPC. So I was able to go to collegiate nationals the next year in 2014, and I took second place to Cody Montgomery at a collegiate nats. But as far as when did it click, and when did I decide, okay, I can do this? I would say it was maybe around 2017. I came in second place at North Americans, and I was this close to a pro card. So I would say that's when I really knew for sure. I was like, okay, I can turn pro. Like, I can do this. The year prior to that, I won the Mr. Pittsburgh, which is a very prestigious regional title. I mean, that's about as big of a title as it gets as far as qualifiers go. And when I won that, I knew I had potential, but it was when I went to nationals the next year, and I had done North Americans. When I say nationals, I mean, North Americans, I'm speaking generally. I had done it before and got 8th, but it was when I got that second place that I knew I was very much on the fringe of turning pro, and, really turning that corner and getting my momentum. So then the following year, I did the same show, came up a little short. I got 3rd. I got sick before the show, and I was dealing with some shit. So it was in 2019 at USA's that I took first place in the supers and the overall. And then, I was really on a high, and I was like, okay, I can take this and run with it.
Absolutely, man. And we're going to get there. So let's talk about, let's bring up Coach Morgan here. Super awesome guy. I've had a couple other of his athletes, Brady and Dougie, on. Super cool dudes. I'm sure you guys probably train together and things like that. But when you kind of connected with Morgan, is that really when things changed for you in terms of your competitiveness, in terms of placing and kind of going to that next level, or were you kind of already there when you connected with Morgan?
You know what? When I connected with Morgan, which, like I said, was long ago now, I would say he had a huge impact on how I trained, most notably. So prior to linking up with him, you know, I always considered myself to have pretty good genetics. And I don't get me wrong, I trained hard. Like I was focused and everything, but I linked up with him, and he also had this fascination with hardcore training and finding ways to push yourself past your previous limit. And whether that was the max effort training, the progressive overload, or the high intensity, the drop sets, the rest pause sets, that's where I adopted a lot of those training methods from, was him. So he was a game changer in a training sense. And now, as you know, he's pretty much become this all-around guru and very intelligent with nutrition and supplementation and peaking methods. So he's a jack of all trades now, but I consider him to be founded on the love of the training aspect of the sport. And I'm very thankful to have adopted those qualities, but that drive too. And that training someone to have that training drive is a hard thing to teach. You know, you can put someone under, 4 or 5 plates on the hack squat, but you can't make them do 20, 30 reps until they drop. It's on them to execute. So I'm very thankful to be able to push myself to what I consider, a hard limit in the gym.
For sure. So I'm going to pull something up because you posted this on your Instagram story, Zach, and this is a perfect segue. I was going to bring it up, but you already kind of touched on the training. You posted this on your Instagram stories here, I think earlier in the week. I want to read it because I want the people watching and listening to be able to kind of hear this, and then I want you to expound a little bit more on this post and what you were just talking about in terms of training. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is again off of your Instagram stories, I think just a few days ago, but it says, it's pretty simple. You have to be willing to go where others are scared to go in the gym. A lot of people train hard. What are you going to do to separate yourself from the pack? You can follow a training split perfectly, eat all of your meals, take your supplements, but you need that X factor to be a champion. You need the guts to go until the wheels fall off. So I saw that on your Instagram stories. I took a screenshot because I knew I was going to be chatting with you. So just expound on that. Like, is that something that Morgan has kind of helped you get to that place? And then just break that down for us a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So this quality, this X factor you need to have in order to be a great bodybuilder is, it can be the simplest or most complicated thing to try to grasp. Some people just have it in them. They can go into the gym and be a machine and there's no pain, and just, like I said, go until the wheels fall off. It's very hard to put into words, as you can see. And I had people message me about that post, and they were saying, how can I put this to the test? How do I know if I have it? And I kind of told some of them, I'm like, well, if you have to ask, you may never know. Can it be taught? Can it be adopted? Maybe. You just, and it helps to have someone to train under Morgan's supervision, because I do things in the gym that I would not even attempt if he wasn't there. And it's peace of mind. It's having someone spotting you with their hand under the bar, but it's also having someone bark at you and yell at you and force you to do 10 more. And like I said, no one can do it for you. You have to go through that pain barrier, like Arnold said, without fear. And there's all everyone wants to talk about nowadays is the methodology of things. I need to do 3 sets of 20 with a drop set and a super set, and then cables with resistance bands, and that stuff's all great. But at the end of the day, do you have the balls to train until you puke, or don't you? And I think that's being lost nowadays. People are forgetting the essence of bodybuilding and what makes someone have slabs of dense muscle. You don't get that from anything else. There's no substitute for killing yourself in the gym, for lack of better terms. So I hope that encapsulates it, you know.
It's perfect, man. I love it. And I truly believe that that's something that's innate within you. I think it's some sort of like a Kobe Bryant-esque, Michael Jordan-esque, that killer instinct, right? And, you know, we see that within, you know, basketball, football players, entrepreneurs, business people. I truly believe personally that it's something that you're born with. Either you have it or you don't. That doesn't mean you can't be successful if you don't have that killer instinct or that extra gear, right? But again, my personal opinion is either you have it or you don't. Sometimes you might need a Coach Morgan or somebody on the outside to kind of bring that out of you. But
yeah, I was going to say that too. Maybe you need someone to wake up the beast inside you, and maybe you have it, but you need a little coercing, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So before we get off of the topic of coaching, you kind of brought it up earlier, Zach, and I want you to expound on this a little bit more as well. You've been with your coach for you know, going on a decade now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've probably, because of your bodybuilding success, your bright future, I'm sure you've probably had people approach you and saying, hey man, let me coach you, all that stuff. Why have you decided to stick with the same coach for so long? And maybe just speak to some of those younger listeners, some of those younger viewers, of why, from your personal perspective, it's important to stick to a coach for an extended period of time.
Right. That's a really good question. So there's a lot of good coaches out there, and there's some bad ones. Don't get me wrong. There's some scammers, you know, copy and paste bodybuilding.com workout and email it out, mass email. And you definitely want to avoid that. But there are a lot of good coaches out there, and I've seen it a lot. Guys bounce coach to coach, and they try a coach for 3 months or 6 months and it doesn't work out, and they go to someone else, and yet again it doesn't work out, and they go to someone else, and the cycle repeats itself. And at a certain point you have to think, maybe the problem isn't the coach, maybe the problem's you. Maybe you're not training hard enough, maybe you're not executing. But in this modern bodybuilding era where we seem to have, you know, everyone has a coach, and they'll put them in their bio and boast about their coach and tag them in every post. And it's okay, but it still falls on you. You know, you're the athlete, it's your job. I agree. It's very important to be with a good coach and someone who knows what they're doing and has a vast amount of knowledge in all the areas you need them to be in order for it to translate to you being successful. But I've stuck with Morgan because we've grown together. And like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, you have a good thing, run with it. But I know that in order for me to make progress, I have to execute, and I have to continue to do that and continue to do things at a higher and higher level and keep stepping my game up in order for it to work. So I think, the message to the younger guys out there would have to be, get with a coach, do what you got to do, or don't. If you're not ready, you're not ready to compete at a high level, just focus on those fundamentals, fall in love with the training, train hard, prove to yourself that you're cut out for this and that it's something that you can do every single day without distractions and letting things get in the way. Sure, life happens. You could deal with family tragedy. You're going to get sick. You're going to deal with injuries. That's part of bodybuilding. I mean, bodybuilding is unlike any other sport because it's 24/7. It's not like golf or football or baseball where you can walk away and in the off season you can eat whatever you want, you can hang out, drink beer, what have you, and then come back into it, and then it's all about the mechanics. And no, it's not like that. It's your body. So every time you lift a fork to your mouth, every sip of water you take, it's all part of a greater equation. So there's really no getting away from it. So you have to take it upon yourself to be the best bodybuilder you can be and not make excuses. And if your car breaks down, you have to have meals with you in your car. You get caught up at work, you have to have your food with you. You have to make sure you have access to a 24/7 gym if you have to, so you don't miss your cardio or your training. And the successful bodybuilders check all these boxes, and they have a plan, and they have a backup plan and a backup plan to the backup plan, so they can make sure they're successful. And you have to be prepared to do that.
Very cool, man. Love that. So
yeah,
let's get back into a little bit more of your competition history, because I want to get up to when you turned pro. I want to talk about the Chicago pro debut here, but so you've kind of already discussed, you won the overall at your first show. You got second at college collegiate nationals to Cody Montgomery. So let's talk about when you got second place. You almost got your pro card, and then why don't you from that point lead us into 2019 USA's when you turn pro, Zach?
Sure. So you just want to touch on the contest history from that point moving forward?
Yeah, just talk about when you got second place, and then just kind of that shift in mindset, because you said earlier that's when you're like, okay, I know I can become a pro. So kind of walk us from that point of getting second to USA's, and just what did you take in terms of just the mental steps, the physical steps to become an IFBB pro?
Sure. So 2017 was where I placed second in the super heavyweight at North Americans, and second place is it's a heck of a motivator. I'm a firm believer, because you didn't get buried into the third call out, right? You were close to winning, but you end up in the same spot essentially that the guy that came in last did. So it really lit a fire under my ass to bust my ass in the gym, be more perfect about my meals, my hydration, my sleep, everything, and take it to that next level. And that's when I started training like a pro, although I wasn't a pro yet. I'm a firm believer that you have to, in order to turn pro, well, with the exception of like a watered down show, some guys will find a way to get a pro card at a weak show, but they know deep down what they did, but for all intents and purposes, I started training like a pro. And then 2018, I came back with a vengeance. I had a lot more mass. I felt really good about what I was bringing, and it just didn't click on show day. And that happens, we're in bodybuilding. It all boils down to how you look at that very moment on stage. And that comes with its own risks. It can go in your favor, or you can look great the whole prep, and then it can kind of fall apart in front of you, and shit happens. That's okay. I didn't let that get me down. I knew the progress I had made. And then going into 2019 was when I said, okay, I've been trying in Pittsburgh at North Americans for a while now. I've done this show 3 times and not got the result I wanted. So I'll fly out to Vegas and do USAs. And plus, what a cool title that would be, just to win it out there. And luckily it panned out. But that prep for me was, up until that point, I hadn't had a prep like that. It was perfect across the board. Everything clicked. The training was great. The diet just worked. The fat was just melting off of me. My posing was good. I'd pose every day, practice. Mentally, I was in a good spot. I felt good. I believed in what I was doing, and I knew I was going to be dangerous. I'm not the cocky type. I don't like call out, I'm going to win this show, I'm going to beat this guy. I've just never been like that. And that might work for some people. It might help some people to put that type of pressure on themselves and then go and deliver and back up their talk, walk the walk type of deal. But I don't know. For me, I had a phenomenal prep that year for USAs. And my mentality is always to just be the best version of myself. And as far as like the cockiness thing, I was very confident, but not cocky, because I'm not naive. I know that bodybuilding is a sport that's dependent on genetics. Anything can happen show day. You could get an injury your last week of training, and that can put a wrench in everything. So I'm humble in the sense that if it all comes together for me, I'm just thankful for the opportunity, and I'll capitalize on that opportunity, and I'll enjoy the victory when that trophy's in my hand or the medal's around my neck. I'm not gonna get hyped up about it until it's a reality to me. So needless to say, I was pretty shocked, and it was pretty surreal whenever I won, and the sirens were sounding off, and they called my name, and they were trying to interview me, and the microphones were in my face. And but at that point I was able to enjoy it. But up until you win, for me, it's all business. So that was that capped off my amateur career. And then obviously the next show I did 2 years later was the Chicago last year. So that was the first time I ever took a 2-year break since I started bodybuilding, was to bridge the gap between my amateur and pro career. And there were a lot of reasons for that. There was COVID. I had some health things to square away, and just taking the time in general to grow into my frame to be respectable and competitive at the next level. So that led us to the present.
Very cool. Very cool. Now let's talk about, that gap, that 2-year gap between, winning your IFBB pro card and then when you stepped on stage in 2021. Obviously you just said there were some different things, but overall speaking, do you feel like that's something, Zach, the current crop of bodybuilders or the current day bodybuilding community needs to maybe think about a little bit more in terms of taking that time off to maybe let their bodies detox, let their bodies rest and recover, and then to be able to put on the tissue and the mass that they need to be competitive. Is that something you feel like needs to be looked at a little bit more in the current day?
It definitely does need to be considered. Now, I think it's important to realize in bodybuilding, everyone is different. Literally, everybody is unique. And you have to look at it from different angles. Like you said, some guys may need some time off to put on some tissue. Some guys turn pro and they already look like a very good pro, like a Derek Lunsford who's ready to go on and win Tampa and then go to the Olympia, and just kind of, their amateur career bleeds right into a very successful pro career. But I think, like you said, detoxing and stuff, you have to look at the health aspect of it as well. You need to get your blood work done. Maybe just let your body breathe a little bit. Maybe your blood work's perfect, but you've been punching the gas for a few years, and longevity is the name of the game in bodybuilding. I mean, bodybuilders have a very short career, even when they have a long career. So I think it's important to keep your joints healthy, your internal organs and systems healthy, and just even mentally, make sure you don't mentally get too fried. And like I said, when you prep for a show, and everyone's different. Some people can just hit the ground running and go nonstop and bulldoze through these shows, and other people need to just breathe for a minute and have a bit of an off season and mentally decompress a little. But I mean, one thing's for sure, there's no getting away from bodybuilding. Like, it's just not feasible to stop eating your meals and training for months on edge and maintain that physique. That's just not realistic. But what I'm saying is taking the pressure off your shoulders of constantly having to do a show, and because a lot goes into that. It's more than meets the eye. You're training hard and you're eating your food, yes, but some people have to do excessive amounts of cardio. I mean, you have to shave and do skin prep so your spray tan looks good and doesn't run, and do all these extra things just to maintain this presentation. So but I'm kind of getting a little off topic here, but yeah, that bridging that gap from amateur to professional, I think you have to just look at all angles of it, and you as an individual, and what's going to serve you the best moving forward, and dependent on whatever your goals are. Not everyone has the same goals and reasons for bodybuilding. Some people are really hell-bent on being Mr. Olympia in their division, whether it's open or 212 or classic, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make that happen, and that's their number one priority. And some people, it's serious for them, but a little more lighthearted and fun, and they care more about their life after bodybuilding, or what they're going to use bodybuilding to leverage. Maybe they want to be a coach. They want to be an athlete, but maybe their coaching is more important to them and helping others in the future, or they want to brand themselves and start a supplement or clothing line, or what have you. There's nothing, anything goes in this sport. You can do a lot with it. So it's how you handle your business is up to you, and ultimately you're responsible for that.
100%. So I'm going to ask you, since you just said that different people use bodybuilding for different reasons, what's your ultimate goal, Zach? What kind of keeps you in bodybuilding? What drives you, and what are you kind of driving toward, so to speak?
That's a good question, and I have to ask myself that question, and things are dynamic, you know, things change, but where I'm at right now, hitting a good stride with my training, I still feel like I have that killer instinct inside of me. So yeah, I want to train and win a pro show and go to the Olympia and see what I can do with it from a competitive standpoint. Now, with that said, I have my online coaching going for me. I've already been building that, and I'm very passionate about that as well. I enjoy helping others, and I think if you're going to do this, I think it's very important to give back. And like I said, not everyone gives back in the same way. I like being hands-on and working with my clients, and I take pride in being a good coach to where they can come to me during the week and ask me questions, and I can explain this is what you need to do and this is the why behind it. And yeah, I just really enjoy, because there's a lot of misinformation being spread these days, and I like putting out good, solid information. I mean, we're in a sport where there's a lot of differing opinions and there's no right or wrong, but I feel pretty strongly about the things that I believe in, and I want to pass that on to others. So yeah, I have my coaching going, and when I retire, whenever that may be, I want to continue to do this because I want others to get out of bodybuilding, you know, what I got out of it. And I don't know, it's just fun to me to see these younger kids progress and enjoy it, and follow the process. And you know, it's important for me to steer them in the right direction. But that said, I still am very much passionate about my own training, and I want to see how far I can take it. And like I said, you know me, I'm not the type that's going to say I will be Mr. Olympia, mark my words. A lot of people are like that, but there can only be one Mr. Olympia, and a lot has to go in your favor in order for that to happen. And there are many legends of the sport that were never crowned Mr. Olympia for whatever reason. And some of those bodybuilders are better than some of the guys that have been crowned Mr. Olympia, in my opinion, when you're looking at it from a physique standpoint. So it's really not a knock on anyone if you don't achieve that grand title, although it would be a hell of an honor, and I would, you know, I would be floored to be Mr. Olympia should it be in the cards. But yeah, it's a personal endeavor for me, and I started this sport just to see how far I could take it. And to me, bodybuilding is a very good gauge of finding out who you are and do you have what it takes. And like you said, you made a good point. It doesn't have to necessarily be bodybuilding. A lot of people, like entrepreneurs, other types of athletes, anyone, I have nothing but respect for anyone who tries to be the best at their said discipline. So it all starts up here. It's all in your mind, and that's what translates ultimately to the body. So that's what bodybuilding is to me, is seeing what I'm made of, essentially.
Love it, Zach. Love it. Okay, I'm anxious to get to the Chicago Pro last year, your pro debut. You got 7th out of 15th. Is that correct?
Yeah, 7th.
Okay. So talk about, so before we get to actual show day, talk about your decision. And I'm sure Morgan had a big part in it too, but why did you guys choose the Chicago Pro, first of all? And then talk about show day, talk about pre-judging. How did you feel? Just unpack that entirety of your pro debut, please.
Sure. So we started prepping in February of last year, 2021. And the Chicago was actually not the first target. So I had it in my head for a while, for whatever reason, that I was going to do the Indie Pro. And I believe that was in May, I want to say. So I had taken this 2-year, not hiatus, but off season. And I had gotten pretty chunky in my off season. I was thick. I had a layer on me, and I didn't even realize it so much, because in the off season you're not taking constant progress photos, and Morgan wasn't looking at me as regularly, and it wasn't that like I got crazy out of hand. But once we started prepping and I started sending him the updates, I began to realize, yeah, I'm behind. Like, my starting point as far as being lean isn't what it was. But you know what? Let's do this. Let's try to get the fat off. Let's try to do Indy in May. And we did that, and it came to like a couple weeks out, and I was posing in front of him, and I knew it deep down, and he knew it, and he was like, yeah, you're not ready, so let's try Cali, which is 3 weeks later. That's 3 more weeks to lose the fat. And so I go, okay, I'm with Redcon, they'll financially support the travel and everything. It's no big deal. Let's pick another show 3 weeks later. And we continued on that path. And again, it had been evident that my metabolism had slowed down. I'm getting a little bit older now. This time last year I was 28. So I noticed a difference even from when I turned pro at 26 to being 28 now. And that's consistent with most guys. That's when your metabolism slows down a little bit and you're not able to get away with eating the amounts of carbs and cheat meals and fats that you used to. But that's okay, because it has its benefits. When your metabolism slows down, you're also able to put on size a little bit easier. So it was a trade-off, but I kind of found out the hard way. So when we realized, and it dawned on us, that I wasn't going to be quite ready for Cali, that was when we picked the new target of Chicago, which I think was like another whole 9 weeks or so. And I prepped for 9 more weeks, and obviously I went on to do the Chicago, and I was happy with what I brought and everything, but it was also a long and drawn out prep for me. And now moving forward in the future, I'll be prepared for that, because I had never prepped that long. I had only ever prepped half that long. So I was a little burnt out by the end of it, just because I think initially, mentally, I wasn't ready for that long haul type of extended prep. And some guys, like I said, they diet all year, have like a little bit of an off season and then go right back into dieting. And I'm getting better at handling that, both mentally and physically. And with Morgan's help and guidance, now I'm taking the appropriate deloads from training, so my body doesn't wither away, and everything is just in a better spot now. But Chicago was a good prep for me. I wouldn't say it was a bad prep, but it did have its challenges. But it certainly wasn't like that USA prep where everything was just flush and clicked, and I ran smoothly right into the show and felt great and looked great and felt good about how I looked. But I was very happy with what I brought to Chicago. It was a good pro debut for me, not quite what I hoped for. I don't train for any show, striving for anything less than my best. And I think there were a few things that could have been better. I could have been a little more harder from my backside. I could have had more in the glutes and hams, and my presentation on stage could have been a lot better, admittedly. I should have spent more time on posing and stuff, but I'm making all those corrections now, and things are going to be a lot better moving forward. But you only get one pro debut, and I had a blast, and I had a good time sharing the stage with those guys, and it was a great experience, and I wouldn't change anything.
So tell us a little bit, going back to your favorite bodybuilders of all time at the beginning of our conversation, Zach. You brought up Rolly Winkler. You got to compete against him. What was it like for you, man? Because, some of these guys are around your age. Some of them are quite a bit older, but you see these guys on Instagram, you see them on YouTube. Some of them you've been following for years and years. What was it like for you personally? I mean, was it really surreal? Did you kind of have to kind of pinch yourself, or are you kind of the guy that just got your blinders on, do your thing and go home?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was a little bit of both. I'm a pretty laid back, chill guy for the most part. So I was able to keep a calm demeanor and not really let the adrenaline of the whole experience get to me. I was more so just appreciative, and to be on that level with them and taking it all in. And I have a lot of respect for those guys, and developing some friendships with them. And that bunch who did the Chicago, I don't have a bad thing to say about any of those guys. Rolly was phenomenal. He was a class act. He took the time to talk to me and my girlfriend for a while, and take pictures with us. And so I would say I fanboyed over him the most, because I grew up on Rolly, and everyone else. Hunter Labrada, who won the show, great guy, very down to earth. Brett Welkin, very nice guy, and they're great athletes as well. And everyone else in that top 6 or so, Max Charles, Shaban, Hassan, all really cool guys. I had a really good time, and it's good to see a bunch of guys that are not just great athletes, but good people, and humble, and what I consider myself to be. And I think it's important to realize that in bodybuilding, a lot of these guys we're self-made. We don't really come from like Hunter's dad was a bodybuilding legend, but it was still on him. Like I said, no one could do the training for him. No one could eat his meals for him. So we really are self-made success stories and athletes. And I think there's something to be said for that. And it was refreshing to experience firsthand that these guys were really down to earth. And like I said, I had a really good time.
Love it, man. So Zach, we're going to kind of start wrapping things up here. I want to touch on a few more things, and then we'll close it out. Does that sound good with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So that kind of leads us to where we're at right now. We're end of January, almost February of 2022. What are your plans for competing or not competing this year? If you don't mind, would you share that with us?
Yeah, I'll share with you what I know, and it might be a little anticlimactic, maybe a little bit of a letdown, but I do not have a show picked out yet. I would love to compete this year, and I do have a tentative plan to compete in one or more pro shows this year, possibly towards the latter half of the season. Right now, my main focus is, like I said, bringing up my backside and making sure I've made the improvements to present a better me on stage. So that's my main priority. I don't really want to compete until I feel like I've leveled up considerably and I'm going to be a threat. And I know what I need to do that. So right now I'm just focusing on making the progress and the gains that I need to in order to facilitate that. So yeah, I don't have a show picked out, but I can follow up with you and let you know more when I know more. And I'll try to be a little more transparent about what I'm doing this year on social media and stuff.
Cool. Now that is a great segue. So I want to bring up social media because everybody says now, quote unquote experts say that, in terms of bodybuilding, making a living from bodybuilding, being even a successful bodybuilder, you've got to play the social media game. I hear all kinds of people saying that.
Yeah.
I personally don't buy into that. And from your social media and your social media presence, it seems like maybe you buy into that as well. Like, hey, like, you know what? I'm going to do my thing. I'm not going to get into all this social media hype and all that. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? It seems like you said, you're a chill guy. You probably don't really like the spotlight, because I know Morgan, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, I'd love to have you on the podcast. He's like, hey, he said, I don't want to be on the podcast, but I'd love to have my athletes be on the podcast. And I brought that up with Brady, and he said, that's exactly, the way Morgan is. And that seems like how you are. So talk about social media, talk about, your thoughts on it in terms of bodybuilding and being relevant, staying relevant, everything that people say you have to do with social media nowadays.
Okay. Yeah. I'll try to give you my take on it without getting too scattered, because as you know, there's a lot of ins and outs to that. The whole social media thing, social media can be anything you want it to be, or it doesn't have to come into play. Now, I would say the caveat with that is I am a sponsored athlete. I'm with Redcon One, MegaFit Meals, Chic Sports, and social media, Instagram specifically, serves as a platform for me to let everyone know, hey, I'm using these products and this lifting gear, I'm eating this food. And I'm lucky enough that I have 3 sponsors that I really believe in. And I've been with companies before that I didn't necessarily believe in. And I hate the annoying product pitches like, here, buy this, it'll do this, this, and this. And, they're clearly lying through their teeth. But I'm lucky enough to have wonderful sponsors, and I believe in the products, and I'm happy to promote them. So I use social media for that. And like I said, I like spreading positive information. So when I do post training clips or like on my story the other day, like just a motivational piece of advice or whatever, social media is a great thing to get that out there. But do I think you need social media to be successful? Maybe you need some presence on there because it is so prevalent, but I don't think you have to be a social media junkie. Like if you look at Morgan's page, he only has, I think, maybe like 2,000 followers or so, but he has a vast group of clients, and he's very notorious in the Pittsburgh area where we're posted up at specifically, because people talk to each other. There's word of mouth, that's still a thing, believe it or not. And you can, garner a good clientele, or whatever it is that you're after, following by your reputation and the results that you put up. So for me, myself, I'm clearly not one of those guys that their story is like a million little dots and you can view it for hours. And I'm not making a day in the life of videos as much as people would probably like that and stuff. But who knows? In the future, maybe I will be a little more regimented with it and post more regularly, training videos, just fun stuff. But for now, I use social media to put myself out there for my clients and potential clients that may need my help. And to let people know that I'm alive. I do have some social media presence. I mean, I don't think it makes sense to bodybuild and to take it so seriously if no one knows you exist at all or what's going on. But with that said, and you said you don't completely buy into the fact that you have to be a social media junkie. I agree with that, because if you become successful enough in this sport from a competition standpoint, if you win enough shows, if you go to pro shows, go to the Arnold, the Olympia, do well there, if you don't post yourself, other people sure as heck are going to post you. I mean, you're in the spotlight, you're going to get talked about. So it all kind of comes full circle, any way you slice it, you know what I mean?
100%, man.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe, but if you are good, your presence will be known one way or the other, whether you're putting yourself out there or other people are. So if you're good, you're going to get talked about.
Absolutely. I think a great example of that, Zach, is Sean Clarita. I mean, yes, he's developed his social media over the years, but man, like when he's in prep, like it's all business, and he's got his hoodie up, he's doing his thing. And because he's been successful, I think you've seen his social media grow, and there's a lot of examples of that. And I think that's perfect, right? Because it doesn't matter, again, whether you're a basketball player, football player, an entrepreneur, like, the thing that's going to sustain you is the success and actually doing something and not just talking about it. Right. So all the accolades, all the recognition, everything that, we enjoy, if you do something, it'll come, right? You don't have to like be the self-promotional type person if that's not you, and if you don't like that, right? If you are, hey, do your thing, you do you, right? But I think you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because you can promote yourself all you want, but if all you do is promote and you don't do any of the work, the training, building your physique, you have nothing to show off anyway. So more power to the guys that do both, that bust their ass in the gym, have a phenomenal physique to show for, and then they take it a step further and edit videos and post content. That's great, especially when it's not annoying, regurgitated. Like some people post the same progress photos every 2 days. It's like, well, I gained 0.1 pounds, as you can see the difference. And it's like, yeah, you look the same. You could have just left that initial post. You didn't have to post the same thing 4 times in a week, and you mentioned Sean Clarita, like, just putting his hoodie up and doing the work when it's crunch time. And we can use examples throughout history, but like Dorian Yates, that was before the social media era. But I think of like Phil Heath. Whenever Phil would get ready, he wouldn't drop any progress photos. I seldom remember seeing training clips, maybe a handful of just short clips of him doing stuff in the gym, getting ready for the Olympia. But he was really like a silent assassin, if you think back. And that was your reigning Mr. Olympia for 7 years. And the best bodybuilder on the planet isn't really giving away much, posting much. So, I think Phil thrived on, he's training with a vast amount of pressure on his shoulders, but, he wasn't, posting like these mirror pics like some guys post, and, hyping himself up, because he didn't need to. He would just come to the show and win, and that was it. So whatever serves you, whatever works.
100%, 100%. Okay, I want to ask you something. Just we're all human beings, right? We all have ups and downs. There's ebbs and flows in life. Is there something, Zach? And this is not necessarily bodybuilding related, but just more life related, because that's really like my heart with this podcast is like, we see the social media, we see you IFBB pros, we see the muscle, but there's so much more behind the muscle, right?
Yeah.
And you tie your shoes just like I tie my shoes. We're human beings. So this is kind of outside of bodybuilding, more focused on life. But is there something that you kind of just struggle with, just, a personal struggle, something that you struggle with right now, or maybe a struggle that you've had to overcome or break through over the years?
I think, well, that's a great question, because people on social media would lead you to believe that their life is peachy and everything is great. And you and I both know that that's rarely the case. Everyone has something going on behind the scenes. And, I've been fortunate. I've had a pretty good life. I've had, various blessings in life. But yeah, I struggle with certain things just as many others do, whether it's just anxiety, financial stuff, just trying to get your footing in various ways. And sometimes I get stuck in a rut, and I'm on a horrible sleep schedule, and it just messes with my whole regimen. And that can be hard to shake. It can be a vicious cycle. And like I said, I've been lucky and fortunate in a lot of ways, but we all have our demons that we have to deal with. And without getting into anything too explicitly private, I just like anyone else, I deal with a lot of stress, and you have to find ways to manage that stress and overcome it, because even that has an effect on your body. And like I said, the sport is very unique in that everything that happens in your life can bleed into your bodybuilding and affect it very easily. And for me, it's just with everything I do in life, getting in a good groove, staying out of that rut and getting in a good groove with my schedule, my regimen. And usually when things are going well, everything's going well. And, when things fall apart, it seems like everything falls apart. So it's very important to me that I keep that positive momentum going. So I hope that's not too vague, but
no, you answered it. It's a personal question, but what I want to follow up with that is, when you are in one of those ruts, Zach, what are the steps that you take? And obviously maybe it depends what type of a rut, what you're going through, but is there kind of like something that you go to, or a way that you kind of pull yourself out of those ruts?
That's a good question. If I had a clear cut system to pull myself out of something like that, then I think it would be a lot easier to, because what does it mean to be in a rut? Like, what you need to do to get out of it, but you can't quite, sometimes it's just the motivation to get out of bed in the morning and say, you know what, I got shit to take care of. I have to do this, and this. And I think whenever you think of the big picture and the long-term implications of everything, I think that's what does it for me. Is I think, okay, I don't want to do this now, but if I start doing it every day, it'll become a habit. and I need to make more good habits than bad habits. And once I do that, I'll reap the benefits and it'll pay off down the line. And then things will just be a lot better for me, you know? So.
Perfect. All right. Two kind of more fun, lighthearted questions, and we'll wrap it up here. What do you like to do for fun? We know you're focused on bodybuilding, you're focused on your coaching. I know you have your significant other, you mentioned her earlier, but what do you like to do for fun? What do you guys like to do for fun? What do you like to do just to kind of check out from bodybuilding if it's only for, you know, an hour or two, right? Between meals.
Yeah. I do have a life outside of bodybuilding. So, you mentioned my girlfriend, Ava. She's wonderful. And we train together and we do everything else together. And we have a lot of similar interests, which is great. We love watching horror movies. Specifically, we're horror movie buffs, but really all kinds of movies. But we really like our horror films. Listening to metal, like death metal specifically. Not everyone's cup of tea, but I love it and she loves it too. Going to concerts whenever you know, some bands we like are in town. I would say those are the main things, but on a more regular basis, we you know, whenever we get a free meal, we just enjoy nothing more than going out to eat, just relaxing. You know, just stuff like that, fun stuff. Go bowling, go to Top Golf, you know, just we like shopping, just go out. We're still fairly new to Pittsburgh. We've been here for about a year, but we like checking out different spots in the city and exploring and you know, just standard stuff like that. But yeah, we really like our horror movies and heavy metal music.
So follow-up question then, favorite horror movie of all time, and then what's like the best, you know, concert that you've been to recently?
Oh man, you're killing me. That's not an easy
I'm putting
question.
you on the spot, right, Zach?
Yeah. All right. I don't know if this is considered a true horror film. It's kind of like a horror action sci-fi, but Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Great movie.
Makes sense, man. Bodybuilder to
yeah,
bodybuilder.
and it ties in everything. Bodybuilding, Arnold. It doesn't get any better than that. Concert wise, dude, that's like an impossible question. That's just cruel. We went to a really good one last year. It was after the Burial, Carnifex, and the Black Dahlia murder. That was a really good one. But all time, I don't know, man. That's tough. I really like Norma Jean, Thy Art is Murder. Devil Driver. They've put on some good concerts. So cool. There's no singular one that sticks out.
Awesome, man. All right, last question, Zach, and then I'll give you kind of the final word here before I wrap it up. What is, if there's more than one, go ahead and share, but do you have one major gym pet peeve?
Gym pet peeve. I have a few for sure. What bothers me the most? I would say texting in the gym. Like it's okay to pick up your phone and like check it, you know, if it's something important, whatever, take a peek at it. But I see people in the gym, like on the leg press, like for 5-10 minutes, just going at it. And I know that's one of Morgan's pet peeves too, because we'll train with him and he'll be taking us through and we'll come to a machine that we need to use. And there's some like 140-pound kid on it, just texting away. And he'll just like stand there and like clear his throat, like, or we'll say, hey buddy, TikTok can wait or whatever. We got to train. Like, you know, he's not shy about it. It's actually pretty hilarious. But awesome. yeah, it's the being BS like that in the gym. You know, you're there to train, other people are there to train. So either do your set or get out of the way, you know.
You know what, man, that would be a great clip for a day in the life, Zach, is seeing Morgan getting after like a 13-year-old for texting on the leg press, man. That'd be fun to see. So,
oh yeah, it drives us nuts.
oh dude, I own a gym and we're in a small little town. So, you know, people kind of come in here, they do their thing and they go home. But like when you're in a bigger box gym or a bigger city where there's a lot of people, a lot of younger people, I'm not, this is about you, not me. Cause I'll get going on that, but let's
I don't mind.
let's finish it up here, Zach. First of all, I just want to say thank you, man, for coming on, sharing your story, man, giving us just a little bit of your background. It's really appreciated. And then before I close this out, if you have any final thoughts or any final words for all of us, feel free to share. Sponsors, any shout outs, anything like that. I just want to make sure I give you the platform to kind of close us out here. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that. I have to thank my sponsors, Redcon One, MegaFit Meals, and Chic Sports. Redcon One is obviously my sports supplement sponsor. MegaFit Meals, they supply me with weekly meals, and it's really high quality stuff. And I recommend it to anyone that wants to cut back on their meal prep time, or if you're traveling and you want to stay on your diet and continue to eat clean. And they have options for even just normal people as well. They have a lot of tasty food on there that's not true diet food, and it tastes really good, but it's still pretty healthy. So MegaFit Meals and Chic Sports, of course, I want to give them a shout out for supplying me with all my lifting gear, my weight belts, my wrist wraps, my knee sleeves, and all that. So big shout out to the sponsors. And yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to let everyone know, if you need a coach, I have plenty of, I hate when people say I have spots available, because I don't turn anyone down. I'm always available for the online coaching, whether you're prepping for a show, or you're off season, or you just want to improve your physique, or if you're just a lifestyle client, you want to lose weight, be healthier, feel better. I can help you guys out. So just get a hold of me on my Instagram at @MerkDiesel, shoot me a DM, and we'll talk specifics and I'll take care of you. But other than that, I just want to thank all my friends, girlfriend, family, and I want to thank you, Quentin, for having me on the podcast. I had a great time chatting it up, and it's always stimulating and fun for me to just talk about bodybuilding, because at the end of the day, I really am just a big fan of bodybuilding. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome, Zach. And it's always enjoyable to have a conversation with somebody that's a top athlete like yourself, but you're still a fan, man. So it's fun for all of us, again, to kind of get behind the muscle and realize, hey, you're just a normal dude like the rest of us. You just happen to be an IFBB pro and pursuing your dream. So the pleasure is mine. Those of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you to you, because if it wasn't for you, the podcast wouldn't exist. I appreciate all of you guys subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you head over to Behind the Muscle podcast on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. That's really important, because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to the other podcast platforms. So if you want to stay up on all the current episodes of BTM, make sure you're subscribed to us on the YouTube channel. One other huge favor I'd ask as we close out this conversation with Zach, take this specific episode, please share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Zach, tag Behind the Muscle Podcast 1, so that we know you guys listened to this episode specifically and found great value in it. If you guys aren't following Zach yet on Instagram, or like he brought up earlier, if you're looking maybe for a coach, if you're maybe looking for some guidance in terms of fitness, bodybuilding, life, make sure you guys follow Zach on Instagram and like he said, reach out to him, connect with him, ask him some questions. He would love to be able to help you. His Instagram will be down in the show notes, so you don't have to try to find it on Instagram yourself. Just go down into the show notes on whatever platform you're listening to this episode on, and you can find Zach's Instagram along with Behind the Muscle's Instagram. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.